Okay, hello, dear listeners. Welcome to the first episode of MindMerge. My name is Bram, and sitting with me here is Nick. We're friends for about a decade now, and we've always had our interest in personal development and the ways of the mind. Both of us have been through a period of depression in our lives for a couple of years, and we learned a lot throughout these periods, and we developed a real interest and knowledge about how the mind works. Well, at least our minds. With the podcast, we want to support people in their daily struggles by sharing our knowledge and experience. We were going to do this. We are going to do this by discussing various metaphors on how the mind works and how we apply them to daily life. By discussing these metaphors, we want to give you some ideas that will hopefully make your life a little bit easier. If one of these tools helps you relieve some pressure from your daily life, we have achieved our goal. So come along with us on this journey of navigating life's realities. Today, we're going to talk about our first metaphor, and it's a pretty big one.
It's a pretty big one, yeah.
So the metaphor we have for you today is how life is like driving a car.
And also being the car, let's say.
And also being the car. We were planning on splitting up this podcast into two parts. First, we're going to talk about how life, how it's like you are the car, you are the driver, and how sometimes the car, maybe being your body, could give you certain signals, which you as the driver has to learn to listen to, but also what speed are you traveling, what gear are you in, so anything that has to do with the car and inside the car.
What kind of fuel you are using for your car, and
Exactly.
which fuel your car is supposed to be using.
And how does this all relate to life? And then we're going to talk about what's happening outside the car. What's the surroundings? So, how's the traffic on the road? What people are inside your car? That sounds like it has to do with whatever's inside your car, but it's a different thing. We're gonna get into that.
What kind of road you're driving,
Yeah.
or what kind of weather is going on outside, and how that might affect the way that you drive.
Yeah. So let's start it off with let's start off the metaphor with how your car, how the car you're driving, how that might be like your body, like a metaphor to your body.
I think I like to compare the car to your body in a way that when we have our physical bodies, and to take care of our physical bodies, the best things usually are either to eat healthy, to work out, to make sure that you are physically healthy. Maybe you should visit the doctor once in a while just to have certain checkups.
Yeah.
And I think the same goes for your car. It's like every year you need to get like everything checked to make sure that you can go on for the next year.
Yeah.
If you have a certain dent in your car, you would like to have it checked out.
Yeah.
If suddenly you get into an accident and your car door doesn't open anymore, you can either think to yourself, maybe I'll just get in through the other door, or it is a door in the backside, which I'm never really using, so it doesn't really bother me anyway.
So let's say your car is damaged and there's a dent in your door and you're not able to get in. How does that relate to real life? Could you think of an example?
Yes, I could. I think a dent in your car could be related to some sort of problem, let's say in your shoulder. Let's say you've been exercising, you've been doing something, and suddenly your shoulder is hurting. You have two options.
Yeah.
Or, well, I guess technically you have three. You can either not work out anymore, or like not try to use your shoulder anymore. You can proceed to do the workout and ignore the pain that you're feeling, or you can go to the doctor and try to figure out what it means.
Yeah.
And I think the best option is either to give it rest or to have it checked out.
Like the best option with a car would be to get the dent fixed, to get the
Exactly.
door fixed,
Exactly.
because you want to get in the car as normally as
Yeah.
possible. So this does relate to physical health, but could it also relate to mental health? What could a dent in your car mean if you could relate it to a dent in your mental health?
I think for me, having had multiple dents in my car, it could be the way that you wake up to your day, or maybe not wanting to sleep at night because you would have to start the next day.
Mm.
That dent was never there before, and suddenly that dent was there.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, it was staying up usually until 3, 4 a.m.
Yeah.
just spending time on my phone, spending time watching TV, unable to sleep, just because you didn't really have the motivation or the energy to start the next day.
Yeah, you were
And
afraid of the next day.
Yeah, because I already knew that the next day wasn't going to be great, just as today. And that was a dent.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it was like the dent has already been there for so long that I didn't really know
see it
what it was
anymore.
like before that dent.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been there, so reason to fix it.
So how did you remove the dent? What did you do? I mean, sadly, you can't go to a mechanic in real life. So how do you fix the dent in your hypothetical car?
Yeah. Okay, let's say one of the dents made it for me unable to close one of my doors or open one of my doors. And I kept ignoring that and ignoring it until 2 of my doors were unable to open,
Mm-hmm.
until I got to the point where none of my doors would open and I was stuck inside of my car, let's say.
Right. Yeah.
Like unable to go anywhere, do anything. And for me, that's when the point came, like something needs to be fixed about my car.
Right. Yeah.
Like it felt like if I can still postpone this because it doesn't really bother me. Like sure, it bothered me a lot, but I could still go on and live the next day
Yeah.
until the point where you not want to start the next day ever.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when I started to go to the mechanic, let's say.
And so the mechanic for you was then a psychologist, or what? Who were the mechanics in your life?
Well, it built it built its way up. So first you start at I think it's called the family doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get moved on to a psychologist, and then you get moved on to a therapist, and then you get moved on to group therapy.
Yeah.
And I think for me, in group therapy is where it really did wonders, because I also saw other people with their broken cars,
Yeah.
and like okay, it's pretty let's say normal
Yeah.
that sometimes you're unable to open some of the car doors,
Yeah.
but it felt like for me like I was the only one. Or maybe if I would go to the mechanic and the mechanic would tell me your door, I cannot fix your door,
Right.
and that means that there is something really broken.
Yeah.
So I think for me, leaving the option open for there is always the possibility to fix it later, instead of having to hear that you would never be able to fix it.
Yeah. So seeing the dented cars and the broken doors from other people, did that also make you realize how damaged your car actually was?
I think seeing it in others people's car, suddenly you look at your own car and you realize, because I think
This looks like my car looks like their car, and their car is really broken.
exactly, because I think for a long time I wasn't really also sure that my car was broken, or I was in the denial phase. Just if I ignore it, nothing will happen until all 4 doors are closed,
And
then suddenly
you
you
have a
realize,
big
okay,
problem.
exactly. So then something is going on, and there's no way to avoid it.
Yeah.
And I think seeing other people's cars broken and hearing their stories about how it got broken, it made me look at my own car and realize, okay, maybe I should also be fixing my car.
Right. You looked at your car for the way it was,
Exactly.
a broken car.
A broken car.
So in this metaphor, broken cars really relate to depression, right? And if you have or
Uh,
maybe not necessarily depression, but like mental problems and
yeah.
things that really need to be fixed, let's say. But with a car, you can get things fixed if it's broken. Let's say broken hyphenated.
Hmm.
Um, I mean not hyphenated, quote unquote marks. Anyway, but you also have maintenance with your car. That's a different way of. It's not necessarily fixing something, but it's more preventing further problems.
Exactly.
Right.
I think you would rather prevent problems than having to
Exactly.
fix them. It's like you can do your own oil change every now and then to
Yeah.
prevent that anything goes wrong, and that at the end of the year you go to the mechanic and they say, okay, you've been driving your car and everything has been sort of going well, but something is broken inside,
Yeah.
something that you can't see
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and something that you're not aware of until someone else points it out for you. But if you would think back, okay, I haven't done my old oil change in over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of makes sense that maybe something could possibly be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So doing those small little things to keep your car updated,
Yeah. The maintenance.
the maintenance.
So, what are examples of doing maintenance in your life? What could be, for example, meditation? I could think of one. Do you have any other examples?
Meditation with therapy, they made us run/walk. They called it running therapy.
Mm.
And I really noticed that because we were supposed to give each other or ourselves a grade, how we were feeling mentally,
Mm-hmm.
and you would give yourself a certain grade, and then after the running, you would you would give yourself another grade.
Again, yeah,
And it was like, okay, somehow this running always makes me feel better.
yeah.
I still felt like pretty shitty,
Mm-hmm.
but you could still see it rising and rising and rising.
Mm.
And eventually, when that moment comes that you realize, okay, even though if I feel shitty now and I do not feel like doing the effort and the time into and putting the energy into something that I do not want to do, but knowing that it makes me feel better,
Mm-hmm.
I started doing it anyway.
Yeah.
So I started going to the gym. I started avoiding more unhealthy food.
Mm.
Doesn't mean that I'm never eating anything unhealthy or that like I like to snack a lot,
Mm-hmm.
but I think because I also move around a lot and I exercise quite a lot,
Yeah.
it sort of equals each other out.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So exercising is for me physically and mentally makes me
Also
feel a lot better, and
eating healthier foods. What I heard.
eating
Yeah.
healthier food. And for me, it was meditation and writing,
Journaling. Yeah.
journaling.
Journaling.
Yeah, because they always told me you should maybe write down your thoughts. You should maybe write down your feelings. And I was like, what kind of bullshit is this? Like, what is this? What is this going to help me realize? Like, what is this going to give me?
Mm-hmm.
I already know what I'm thinking. I already know what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
But because I was in that depression, after I realized that my mind was lying to me a lot of the times,
Yeah.
it is telling you the way that you see the world.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're in a dark place, everything that you see and everything that you experience might be a lot worse than the actual reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm doing them by quotations because there's no true reality. It's like all based on how we experience it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you're down, it might be a lot different or a lot further away from the general reality of experience and things.
So let's take it back to the car metaphor. It's so what we're maybe we can evolve the metaphor. Or no, let's recap the metaphor. If there's dents in your car, something's wrong, you need to get it fixed, but you can also do maintenance with your car. So but both are important, right? If you have a dent, get it fixed, meaning if there's something which is bothering you in life, or where you're noticing, okay, I really need to work on this or get over this, find people around you. Could be a therapist, could be group therapy, but something we didn't really touch on, what always really helped me was talking to people, friends, family, and stuff like that. Talking to a therapist will always be different from talking to your friends and family, because you have different conversations with them, because you have different relationships with them, and they're going to tell you different things. So one is never going to cross out the other. So I recommend doing both. That's fixing dents. Could also be part of maintenance, but your dents will never stay away forever, let's say, without doing the proper maintenance.
Exactly.
Your maintenance is more of the base, and fixing your dents is
Something
fixing
extra.
individual problems where things you need to work on or whatever, right? So how does a car relate to speed, and what speed you're living at, or what gears you're in?
I think for me, let's say when you're born, you're in first gear. You're going pretty much 0 kilometers an hour. Like, you're just sitting. You can't even move, walk.
Maybe you can't
talk.
even drive. You're just sitting in a parking lot, or maybe you're on, like, you're getting dragged along by the car of your parents.
Yeah, exactly. I think maybe when you're born, you're pretty much sitting in the car of your parents, because you can't really take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And as you grow older, you go to primary school. Okay, you know what? You go in second gear. You're getting math. You're getting languages. You're getting geography. High school, third gear. Bam. You take another step, another level, until maybe you go to college, university. You start working, and you're in fifth gear. Your life is really going fast, and you're supposed to be pushing yourself and going and going and going. And suddenly, maybe you get fired from your job, and you're sitting at home, and you've been in fifth gear for so long, and you've been used to driving 100 kilometers an hour, and something like that happens, and your life stands still. So you're still in that fifth gear, trying to push yourself through, but you're standing still. I don't know if you've ever tried driving a car in fifth gear,
You're
standing still, that is not happening. And I think in order to get back into action, you have to be able to put yourself back in first gear. You have to start slow, take small steps. And I think how that also, like, another example for me is when I, let's say, went to the gym, and then suddenly you don't go anymore for a year. And you've been standing still on that certain area. And then you come back a year later, and you want to be doing your maximum, your highest, your fullest. That's only gonna ask for disappointment. You're only gonna be disappointing in yourself.
You come in, you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this in fifth gear. I'm gonna go straight back to my old weights, and I want to go 100 kilometers an hour again. But that's never going to work, because you've been standing still, and you're like driving away in fifth gear. That's literally what you're trying to do, and that's never going to work. So you could also reverse the metaphor. You could also say you're driving 100 kilometers an hour. You're at work, like having a great career. You have like a family, and everything's going well. But then all of a sudden, let's say a parent gets very sick or dies. And then because something bad is happening in your life, you're forced into a lower gear. You're forced into fourth gear, or let's say maybe even third gear. But if you're still trying to do everything, you're still trying to do your full-time job and still be a dad and take care of your parents, you're going to still be trying to drive 100 kilometers an hour. But as we all know, if you try to drive 100 kilometers an hour in third gear, your engine is going like crazy. You're going to use a lot of fuel, a lot of energy. It's bad for your motor, and it's going to fail eventually.
It feels like that would give you the burnout. Like literally in the car, your engine is going to burn out. And I think also what a lot of people are experiencing, if you've always been driving that 100 kilometers, you do not realize that when you're in third gear, what is going on with your body. If you do not know what is going on with your car, if you don't realize the sound that it's making, and you keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and maybe the first month it'll work out. You know, you're really burning through your engine, and you're like, okay. I mean,
You're using a lot of fuel.
I've been driving like this for the last month. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Nothing is happening, right? There's nothing wrong with. I mean, it's making this noise.
Yeah.
But I can still drive. But there's gonna come a point where you realize that sound wasn't meant to be there.
It was a bad sound.
It was a bad sound.
Maybe there's even danger lights flashing on your dashboard. You know, there's signs from your body which are telling you that you're driving too fast and too low of a gear. There's first orange lights flashing, then there's red light flashing. And when there's red lights that are flashing, it's probably too late. You've already done some damage, right? And that's how you're going to ruin your car. And maybe, since you're driving a car, your car might be your life. You're just trying to ruin your life.
I think, let's say for my example and my experience, the flat tire, or not, maybe not the flat tire, but one of my tires had a lower air pressure, and the sign was blinking and blinking and blinking. But I was like, I don't notice it.
Your actual car we're talking about now, right? Or is it
It's going to be a metaphor.
Okay,
eventually.
it's going to be yeah.
And I didn't realize. I was like, I don't notice it when driving, and it kept blinking and blinking, and I didn't even know what the blinking meant.
Yeah.
And you kept driving until suddenly your tire explodes. Like you got a flat tire and it.
Yeah. Then there's no point of return.
And I think for me, if I did some digging, searching, or maybe some sort of self-reflecting, I realized that I had depressive thoughts for years. Like a lot of the nights I had these thoughts about me, about my life, about everything going on. But instead of rationalizing those thoughts or maybe sharing those thoughts with someone else, I just took them for the truth.
Yeah.
Because this is my reality. This is how I experience it. So this is the way that it is. Not knowing that I was depressed.
So you never knew what those thoughts actually meant. You saw a blinking light, or you didn't even see the blinking light. There was a blinking light, but you didn't see it, or you didn't know what it meant. So you just kept on driving.
I think I was avoiding in the, what do you call that phase? Denial phase.
Yeah.
If I just look up, if I just see everything ahead and I don't have to look down, there is no light. If I don't focus on this light, there is no light. Because I had never had to look at the lights down there because there was never anything wrong with my car before.
Because you have a brand new car.
Right? I had a brand new car before
because
that.
You're still young, so brand new cars don't have anything wrong with them.
You're driving a car now for maybe 3-4 years, and suddenly you come out, your car has some extra special feature that you didn't realize.
Yeah.
And for me, that was the blinking buttons, because my car seemed fine on the outside.
Yeah.
Until it crashed.
Yeah. So you weren't aware of the fact that your car could give off blinking lights. And so are these blinking lights, what are blinking lights for you? What could be examples of blinking lights? So you were saying depressive thoughts. That's a blinking light. What could be another few blinking lights?
Well, let's say those depressive thoughts when I was driving in traffic. And a lot of the times when I thought of something and I saw a truck passing by, I was like, the easiest way to finish this is just drive into the truck. But for me, that was a normal thought to have. But looking back, that was a very big red flashing light.
Right.
But I never went to a mechanic to show me the lights, like where the lights are and what those lights might mean.
Yeah.
Until I went to the mechanic and my therapist. And we started talking about situations where I experience a lot of emotion and like a lot of negative feeling, and trying to rationalize it down.
Yeah, yeah.
And that made me realize for the first time where my blinking lights were and what kind of warnings it might give off,
Yeah.
and that they're not supposed to be there.
They're not supposed to be there. But then but because this is hard, I experienced the same, where it's very confronting to realize that you have those blinking lights. It's very confronting to realize that you have maybe depressive thoughts or there's something going on, because it will, in my experience, at first make it worse, because you sort of realize you're sick. There's something wrong with you. There's something wrong with your car. So since you're out of that denial phase and you're aware of the fact I have blinking lights, it will go downhill first, at least in my experience, right? You will feel even worse because you're like, man, I have all these blinking lights and you don't know what to do with them. You can go to a mechanic, but the problem with this metaphor is, in real life, the mechanic will fix your car for you. But sad reality check, you will have to fix your own car, right? And there will be a mechanic who will tell you what you can do and who will be looking over your shoulders, right? So there's a lot of people that can help, therapists, but also friends, family, whatever, or podcasts like this, right? So there's people that will help you, try to help you, but you will have to do it yourself, on your own.
What they told me at therapy is they do not fix you, but they give you the tools to fix your car.
Yeah.
So they might say, here you have some sort of tool.
Yeah.
Go use it on your car.
Yeah.
And it might take a while for you to open up the engine, open up the doors, open up the trunk, to see where you can put a screw and maybe tighten it a little.
Yeah.
And they might tell you like, okay, but this tool is for the engine. But you still have to figure out for you where on the engine you need it fixed.
Yeah.
Because they can't look into your car.
They can't look into your car. No. You're the only one that can work on your car, even look on your car.
Yeah, you can sort of describe how it works.
And they can be like, oh, I think you're talking about the engine, or oh, I think you're talking about your blinker lights. Or
because they've seen a lot of broken cars.
Exactly. Yeah. They've seen a lot of broken cars. And that's the hard part, all the energy you have to put in yourself, because you're at a point in your life where it's just so hard to put energy into anything, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I think it's very important to realize that once you're aware of the fact that your car is broken, you have all these blinking lights, don't expect to get the car fixed overnight, maybe even in a week, month, year. But really focus on figuring out your car yourself, so any screw you can tighten in a day, or any door, like opening a door is already massive, right? You have 4 doors. Opening a door, if you can open a door in like a week or a month, that's amazing. That's massive. So really try to fix your car step by step. Really try to fix whatever problems you're in step by step. And
let's say my car door, the one where you enter the driver's seat, has been, I don't know, closed for a year now.
For a year. That was the first one.
For a year, yeah. And I've never called the mechanic. I've never done anything about it.
No.
But now I called the mechanic and I said, okay, if you work on it now, you would be open to open it in a month.
Yeah.
I would be like, okay, but I'm so happy if that would be an option. I've waited for so long, unable to use this car. I don't mind waiting another month as long as I'm able to use it again later on. Like, it is worth the month of work knowing that this is the car that I'm going to be driving in for so long.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the rest of your life, you're driving in this car and you have to get in through the passenger seat.
Yeah, you can't buy a new one either. You're stuck with this car. Right?
You can upgrade left and right.
You can upgrade, of course. And there's maintenance, there's upgrades, there's fixing, but it will always be, you can't ever buy a new one. There's no clean slate.
No. Maybe you can get a new engine here and there, and you can
definitely
get certain parts. I think that's also very interesting that for me, I always compared it to puzzle pieces. And maybe when you talk with friends, maybe when you talk with the mechanic, they can give you certain puzzle pieces to your puzzle. But maybe you can also relate it to the car, and they give you certain car
Car parts.
car parts that you can put into your car.
Because there's going to be car parts you'll need to change as well, right? And you are going to need people to give you those tools, but also parts, maybe, right? And during the whole process of fixing your car, you will always have to keep on asking for feedback. You know, it's not that, okay, I'm gonna see a mechanic once, I'm gonna see a therapist once, and then I'm gonna fix my car for a year. You'll have to come back to the mechanic for at least like a regular checkup. Be like, okay, so I think I kind of fixed this like this and this. Does that make sense? Does that work? And maybe they're like, well, maybe you didn't do it right, or maybe you could do it like this, or yeah, that's good. Maybe try a bit of this and this. Next, you need like an expert's opinion.
But I think it only works if you would go to the mechanic and you actually open up. I can go to the mechanic and show him the outside of my car and tell him like my car is fine, or ask him if your car is fine. And if you only show him the outside, your doors are working, your wheels are looking okay, you have 2 mirrors on the outside, everything seems to be fine. If you don't let him inside of your car, you have to literally open up the front side, you have to open up the trunk, you have to show him what is working on the inside. If you're not true with your mechanic, then your mechanic will not be able to help you.
Yeah, you have to tell your mechanic, like literally open up the trunk and literally describe to your mechanic. So, you know, in real life, open up to your therapist or people around you and literally tell them what's wrong with you. And what's wrong with you is kind of phrased differently, but what's bothering you, like
what's going on with you,
what's going on inside you, inside your brain. And there's going to be a lot of people that's going to be teaching you a lot of stuff about the car.
I think for me, that was also for myself opening up, because before I was able to open up myself to others, I had to open myself up to me, because I looked at my car and I was like, my car is fine. It's making noises here and there. Like I can hear the noises when driving. I can maybe see some lights. Maybe some of them I ignore. But as long as the outside looks fine, there's nothing really going on. Yeah. And I think that's what writing gave me. And I think all of my daily thoughts are all the outside of the car. My mirror's fine. My windows are fine. My doors are fine. My wheels are fine. Nothing's going on. But I'm walking with this feeling of not meant to be growing old. Like I always had this feeling that I was not supposed to live for long. Yeah. But on the outside, everything is fine. Yeah. So everything is fine. There's nothing that I have to fix here. And I think with writing, I started writing a couple of times. And the first 3-4 times I wrote for about half an hour, not really sure how to write or what to write. I was like, this is some sort of bullshit. Like, I don't know what this is giving me, like blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And suddenly I came to a point where I wrote down that I loved myself. And that was one of the turning points for me. It's still giving me the chills. Because I didn't know that anymore. Like I told myself that before, because some people told me that you have to say certain phrases to yourself and
the positive affirmations.
The positive affirmations. And I could say that to myself and not believe it. But when I wrote it down, I was looking at the inside of my engine. And even though this is making noise, this is broken, there's something wrong here, there's still this part that I love, which was me. Yeah. And even though anything else could fill from the car, I know that I would work on the rest in order to eventually make it driving normally again.
Yeah. So there's also certain types of, so let's slightly change up the metaphor again. You know, this is kind of what we're going to be doing throughout. You've noticed it so far, and that's kind of what we're going to be doing throughout the episodes and podcast. If we have a metaphor like this, which we can look at from different perspectives. We're gonna shift the metaphor a little. So that's what we're gonna do now. They all relate similarly, but let's talk about what kind of fuel you're putting in your car. And how do you know if you put the right fuel in your car?
I think for me, I came to realize that when I started using a positive inner dialogue. And as I said, for years, I was putting the wrong fuel in my car, which made it able to sort of drive, but there was a lot of shaking and moving. And, but
it was bad for your car.
Bad for my car. But since I didn't look what was wrong with my car, I wasn't sure what I was doing wrong. I was moving forward, not in a smooth driving way.
Bad, right. So fuel's kind of like your mindset.
Exactly. If you say that you are a failure, I can't do anything, I believe those words because I was, I think that's also the part that we're going to talk about later is comparing. But that's where those thoughts came from. Everyone is going faster than I was. Everyone is driving a car more smooth than I was. So I was the one with the unlucky car. I was the disappointment. I was the failure. I was the loser.
You had the bad car.
I had the bad car, but the more that you repeat that to yourself, it felt like every time I say I am a failure, and I say it 2 times, 5 times, 10 times, the more I say it, the more feeling is attached to it.
Yeah.
So as soon as that thought would come up in my mind, I would be down immediately. And those thoughts would go through my mind hours and hours and hours every night. But if I believe those words, why wouldn't I be saying them to myself?
Yeah.
Until to the point where I figured out that I loved myself. And I was like, why am I talking to myself in such a way? Like just because I am maybe slowing down a little, maybe other people are going faster, maybe other people are driving their cars, like more pretty cars. Why am I treating me and my car in
like this?
Yeah. Like I don't think I should be treating myself like this. And that's when I realized that if I am nicer to myself, and let's say I do feel something, rather than seeing it as a failure, I see it as an opportunity for growth. So just because I feel this, I can see it as failure. But if I see it as an opportunity of growth, I can maybe learn something from this moment and then use it on the next one.
Yeah. So you realized that you were using the wrong fuel. And so what did you do to change your fuel, let's say?
For me, it was taking a breather. Like really deep through the nose and then breathing through the stomach. And think to myself, how am I treating myself? How am I talking to myself? Can I talk to myself in a more nice, in a different way about this situation? Maybe I failed a test. Maybe I didn't show up to a party. When I didn't show up to the party, I can think like, oh, I'm not a good friend. I'm not this. I'm not that. My friends will be friends with other friends and they will hate me. Or I can tell myself, I really had no energy.
Yeah.
I really couldn't do that because I also had to think about me.
Yeah.
I can't always keep pushing myself even though I do not have the energy. So in the first situation, I would talk myself down and put myself into the ground. What kind of bad friend I am.
Yeah.
And in the other situation, I'm taking care of myself.
Yeah. You're like, okay, but this is just what I needed right now.
Exactly. Yeah. And both situations are the same. You didn't go to the party. But the aftermath is how I try to change the story.
The way you look at it is way better. And this kind of sounds like you have to you realize you have bad fuel. You kind of have to filter out the bad fuel before you can put in the new fuel again.
Yeah, because
so there's a transition period of where you're kind of like, at first you're thinking, I'm a bad friend and all the negative thoughts. And then you realize, because then you're filtering it out, that's when you take the breather, You breathe in, you breathe out, and that's when you realize, wait, no, but I think I need this. I don't have that much energy, and that's part of the filtering. And what I think is, there's always going to be a bit of bad fuel, right? It's just we're human. That's just how it works. But it's very important to be aware of what moments the bad fuel is fueling your car, and realize it. Okay, be like, okay, no, I'm not going to use this fuel. I'm going to instead use the good fuel.
Yeah. It's like going to the gas station and you've been putting the wrong fuel in your car for years.
Yeah.
So every time you come to the gas station, automatically you go for the wrong fuel.
Yeah.
And the more and more I take these moments for me, the faster I realize that I'm using the wrong fuel.
Yeah.
Because of course, for me, thoughts are on autopilot. They're flowing and flowing and flowing and flowing. And in the past, I was never able to interrupt them until now that I took that breather. And when I took that breather, there was a pause in my thoughts.
Yeah.
And for a pause that gave me the space to be there and be like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What gas am I using?
Yeah.
Even when I'm using the good gas, I want to make sure that I'm using the good gas.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do you know? Okay, so you're aware of the fact that you're using bad fuel and you want to use different fuel, but there's multiple different choices, right? There's people who will tell you this is the best fuel, this is the best fuel, this is the best fuel. How do you know that once you've chosen a new fuel that it's the good fuel for you?
For me, I experience a difference in energy levels and how I, let's say, go to a situation, a party, a test, a driving lesson, or when I was at home for a few years and I had to go back to school. It was stressing. It was, I think it was Monday and my first day was going to be on Friday. And I couldn't sleep at night because the thoughts kept running over and over. You're going to feel there's something wrong with you. You do not have any concentration. You're dumb. You're this, you're that.
Yeah.
And I took that breather. I took that moment and I was like, okay, I'm thinking these thoughts. Why? Because I made assumptions on how Friday was going to be. I didn't know what the situation was going to look like. I didn't know what the experience was going to look like.
No.
So in that moment, I also told myself, I'm just going to wait till the moment arrives.
Yeah.
And I felt my stress depleting. I felt it like sinking away and be like, okay, that makes a lot more sense than thinking of what might happen. And what might happen was always negative. And what now I'm also trying to think about more is that it might also have a positive outcome.
Yeah.
What if I'm good? What if I'm smart? What if I'm actually going to enjoy this?
Yeah.
What if?
So because you realized it was the good fuel because you felt this weight coming off your shoulders and you felt like this, okay, maybe it's not that bad.
It made me feel good.
So you got positive emotions. You felt it. You felt it throughout your body. The fact that, okay, this works for me.
Yeah.
This is a mindset which makes me happy.
Happier.
Fair enough. Happier. This makes me feel better.
Yeah, better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird that those positive affirmations and the things that you read, the things that you say to yourself have a lot of influence on how you're feeling. Just like I said before, if you're constantly having those thoughts with a lot of emotion attached to it, constantly saying that to yourself, you're not going to feel great.
Those are negative affirmations, really.
That's negative affirmations that you taught yourself.
So if there's a lot of negative affirmations which are making you feel down over the long run, you could reverse that by positive affirmations. That's what you're saying. But
the difficult part is, for me at least, the negative affirmations are autopilot and the positive affirmations require attention until hopefully one day that switch comes and it goes from automatic and then the positive affirmations become automatic. But if you've had a highway of negative affirmations and only a couple roads of positive ones, it takes a while to switch from one to the other.
Yeah. It's the positive affirmations are kind of like actively refueling the good fuel. You're at a gas station and you know, okay, I'm going to go for the good fuel this time and I'm going to refuel the car. And that's kind of what positive affirmations are like.
Yeah.
And also what you said, taking a breather and being like, okay, why am I saying this to me? It's not that bad. It's all good.
Yeah.
Those are another example of refueling the good fuel, let's say.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the inside car metaphors. These really have to do with you, with how your body, your mind, and stuff like that. But there's also a lot going on outside your car and your surroundings. But before we're gonna step outside the car, let's talk about what's going on inside the car, but still is part of your surroundings, which is who are sitting in your car. Where are you sitting in your car?
And who's driving?
Who's driving?
I think that's the most interesting question. You are the car, and
the driver.
you're sort of also supposed to be the driver, but maybe you are not always the driver. But because you are sitting in your car, it feels like you are driving the car, because the car is your
part of you.
Part of you. It's sort of your life and the direction that you're going.
Yeah.
But who's driving? And I think for me, I haven't been driving my car in a long time. There was a really long time where someone else was in control, not on purpose, not necessarily in a negative way, but maybe they were driving the road that I wasn't supposed to be driving.
And was it always the same person, or was it multiple people were drivers?
I think it sort of depends in the situation. I think you can have your grand, big lifeline of road that you're driving, and here and there you can take a little left and a little right, and that might be coming from the people on the passenger side, or maybe people sitting in the back that's saying, you should take a right here. And just because you feel like they have some sort of say over where you're supposed to go, you take that advice. But maybe you have people sitting in your car that you're not able to trust. And that's, I think, why you should be very aware of who is sitting in your car, who is giving you advice, and
who is maybe it's the fact you're always behind the wheel, but you don't always determine where you're going, right? Because being in the driver's seat, or let's say deciding where you're going, that has to do with how much control do you have over your life, right? That's what we're sort of saying. And in the beginning, when you're a kid, you probably won't drive your car because it will be your parents. It will always be your mom, your dad, or any, like, maybe your guardian. And because they will buy you food and they will tell you what's right and wrong. And the older you get, the more you're going to be driving the car yourself. And I mean, who told you? I mean, you saw your dad, your mom, anyone in your life, you saw them driving the car. But you never really did it yourself. So you can base it on whatever your parents did, but you're going to have to figure out how to drive that car eventually.
Yeah. You can make some sort of assumptions on how the rules work, how to drive with other cars in your lanes, and maybe eventually you get on the highway. Maybe your parents have never driven on the highway, so it would be a completely new situation. Or maybe some parents, friends, anyone would explain you the rules, or maybe they would only show you, and you
Yeah.
would have to sort of figure out yourself how it would eventually work.
Yeah.
And what if you get into a new situation and you cause an accident? Suddenly you're afraid to sit behind that wheel
You're behind, but also your car is damaged, right?
and your car is damaged.
We got into that earlier.
Mm.
Let's talk about the traffic rules later, because we thought about that as well. But maybe first take it like one step back to the people who are sitting in your car, because I think it's a very interesting topic, but we haven't really talked about it that much.
Yeah.
Could be anything. Could be you could relate it to maybe different voices in your head, right? Could be let's say you're a perfectionist, so there's a perfectionist sitting in there.
Yeah.
And let's say you're also very caring, so there's like a caring person in there. And let's say you're also very ambitious, so there's like an ambitious person in there. This has a name. It's called voice dialogue, and it's a beautiful metaphor which has already been thought of by a lot of other very smart people, where you have a bus. Your life's kind of like a bus and you're on the driver's seat, but there's people telling, or maybe not, you're not even in the driver's seat. There's some voice inside your head who is in the driver's seat, and then there's like a second seat, and those have the two most control. And then there's, let's say, 4 or 6 places behind it, so 6 or 8 places in total, and those are all the different voices in your head, and they have to do with like character traits you have and stuff like that. And at different points in your life, there's going to be different people driving the bus. So let's say you're at school, or you're doing a presentation or preparing a presentation. The ambitious and perfectionist person is going to be at the front. But if you're with your family and let's say someone in your family is sick, the caring person is going to be at the driver's seat, right? But for everyone, there's a different bus, and there's different voices in their heads, and there's different voices in the bus. And this is sort of similar to the metaphor we thought of. There will be people inside your car. There'll be, let's say you're very close with your mom, and you ask for advice from them on anything. Your mom will probably be in the passenger seat next to you, and they will, exactly like you said, be like, take a right here, take a left here, and stuff like that. How did that relate to your depression? Who was in the driver's seat in your depression, and who was in your car? Or what voices? Doesn't have to be a person necessarily.
I'm kind of thinking, or kind of maybe sadness, anxiety. Maybe it could just be the person depression sitting behind the car, and sort of trying to figure out, because I haven't thought of it in this way with emotions, or like with some sort of anxiety, depression. But what it was causing. I think it was causing me to make no decisions at all, because it felt fine where it was. It was fine with sitting still. It was fine with not moving on in life, because I wasn't supposed to go anywhere anyway.
Because it was kind of like the person in the passenger seat, your depression just told you, we don't need to drive anywhere. We can just stand still beside the side of the road.
Yeah, because, I mean, you're out here in nature. Nothing's going to happen if you stand still. What is the problem? I mean, your car is okay on the outside.
And also, let's just not drive the car, because otherwise we'll damage it too much.
Yeah, or maybe we come to the conclusion that something is damaged.
Yeah. So then let's just not drive.
Yeah, exactly. Because then again, you're in denial.
But
if I don't drive it, then I also don't have to think about if there's something wrong with the car.
But what happens if you stand still on a road with moving vehicles? You're going to cause accidents, right? people are gonna
Well,
hate you.
we live here pretty much in the middle of nowhere, so I guess
As you might notice from the background here.
so I guess here I was a little
For the video watchers, for the audio
lucky
people.
with that, but I think for a
I'm
few
sorry.
years nothing really changed or happened with me standing still.
Mm-hmm.
Just me getting mentally worse,
Mm-hmm.
but with no real consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't cause any accidents besides my own.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been standing still with your car for years, and then also you have to try to get it back on the road. But I think it made me make no choices, no left or right, not moving forward.
Mm. You're just standing still.
Yeah, because I think what I told myself, my car isn't working.
Yeah.
I think, or that's what depression told me.
So what made you moving again? What got you moving?
I think when I started therapy in the beginning, I was like, there's something more wrong with me than the other people here with me with group therapy. And they gave me certain tools, and I was like, I'm not exactly sure what to do with these tools, because they gave me like these tools to work on my car.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't fit on my mirror. This doesn't fit on my door. This doesn't fit on my wheel. What am I supposed to be doing with these tools?
Mm.
Until after therapy, a couple months later, I opened up my car.
Mm.
And suddenly I saw, hey, this tool can be used here. Like my
Yeah.
car was still standing still.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hey, this I can use here. This I can use here. This I can use here. And it felt like I fixed so many different parts of my car that if I started driving, my car would be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is what I believed.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter whether it was true or not, but it made me
You believe it.
drive again.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started driving, you can maybe still see a blinking signal here. You can maybe see something there, but at least you're driving and you want to drive
Mm-hmm.
because you did so much with yourself. Yeah, you did so much work and you put so much effort into it
Yeah.
that it became worth driving your car again.
Yeah.
So I think for me, the tools.
Yeah. So let's talk about the. We were getting into it earlier. We were saying, okay, you need to figure out how to drive your car on your own, and by doing that, you're essentially going to damage your car, and you're going to risk standing still. Right? What makes it so difficult to figure out how to drive a car? Why can't you just do it like this, like your parents did?
I think that's what your parents show you. And I think that's also how you see your parents. Like they are these perfect people to look up to, as if they've never had any trouble with them starting to learn how to drive their car and now driving their car. And now that they are adults, that everything seems to be fine about their car. And maybe their car is very well taken care of on the outside. You don't know what is going on the inside unless they show you.
Right.
Exactly. So I think we might have the feeling, just as with anyone else driving their car, that everyone in this world seems to be fine. And we look up to these people that seem to have this perfect life and the perfect relationship and the perfect this and the perfect job, and they're earning a lot of money, they're driving their pretty car. Like they do not have any problems at all. And I think a lot of us have blinking lights, have some sort of sound in the engine, have some of their doors locked or broken.
But you don't realize this. You only see the outside of their car. You don't see the blinking lights. You don't see the troubles that's going inside. I mean, sometimes, you will see a few dents here and there, but you can't really see what's going on inside their car from the outside. So you're going to think, why is my car so broken? And why do I have all these blinking lights? And why do other people drive these amazing cars and they're
Yeah.
driving fast and they're in fifth gear and
I
whatever.
mean, let's say I'm on the highway and I'm driving my car and I'm barely making it. I'm barely making the speed limit and my car is about to fall apart. It's sort of working. And there's this guy with this amazing car driving by. And I'm like, wow, this guy has really, or girl has really figured it all out. And I'm jealous of what they have.
Yeah.
Like, I envy them.
Yeah.
But maybe 10 kilometers later, their car broke down and I'm still driving because they've been driving in second gear for too long and they got in a burnout.
Yeah.
And maybe they look down on me first and suddenly they realize, wow, I wish I was them.
Yeah. Because at least you're still driving.
Exactly.
And what's also, so it's hard to figure out how to drive the car because you see all these other people doing great. Well, I mean, that's the feeling. So, you compare yourself to other cars, which is a big mistake, a big no-no. Do not compare yourself to other people because everyone is driving their own car, own gear, own speed limit. What's also very complicated are the traffic rules, right? If you get in a car, and there's always going to be rules how to, and this is now it's kind of getting the metaphor into how do you deal with other people, how do you treat other people, how do other people treat you. You're part of a bigger system, you're part of the traffic system, so there is going to be a moment where you're going to be in a conflict. You have to no what I'm trying to say is you're part of a system and the system has certain rules and you have to fit in the system because otherwise other parts of the system are going to hate you for it. So if you don't follow the traffic rules, other cars are going to hate you. If you don't follow the rules of life, you're going to annoy other people.
Yeah, I think maybe let's say you're working in some sort of company, and the driving speed there is 80 kilometers an hour, but you're the one sitting at 40 kilometers an hour, and that's not gonna work out. That's not how it's supposed to be in that environment.
No.
And unless you're aware of the speed that you're going, otherwise you would just be like, why are all these people angry with me? What is?
So an example could be, let's say you are working at a company where there's a lot of very ambitious people who always want to do everything and the company expects a lot from their employees. That would be a highway. There will be people who are driving 120 kilometers an hour very fast. But if you're someone who is just very relaxed and very chill, you're going to be maybe driving 60. If you're driving 60 kilometers an hour on a 120 kilometers an hour road, you're going to notice you're going to get in a lot of accidents and people are going to resent you for it. So in that, you're like in the wrong environment. You need to find a 60 road where all the other people are driving 60.
You have to find your people.
If you are, your environment, I guess.
I think it goes both ways. Like maybe you are going too slow in the environment, but maybe your environment also asks you to go faster. And what would that do with you?
Yeah. So asking to, I think you could drive faster, but it's harder to shift gears, if that makes sense.
I feel like if you are in a certain gear in your life, let's say third gear, and you're going 40 kilometers an hour, and that includes going to school, having your job, having your relationship, and then one of your friends asks you if you can do something for them. But that's going to be twice a week for 3 months. And they're asking it you as a favor. And you're willing to do it because you're afraid to say no. But that extra task is going to make you go 60 kilometers an hour, but you're still in third gear.
Yeah.
So you are pushing yourself too far because you are afraid to maybe let someone else down.
Yeah.
And I think you should be very conscious of what gear you're in and how much you can handle at a specific situation.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're very knowledgeable about your car and you can put it in fourth gear. Like maybe you're able to change the gears in which you're in, but also maybe you're not.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that depends on how you know your car.
Mm-hmm. Some cars just aren't really made for driving in fifth or sixth gear. Some cars definitely aren't made for driving in first or second gear, and it's pretty easy to shift speed. You know, you can step on the gas a little, you can drive a little faster, and maybe your engine will have to work a little harder, but if it's for a while, then it's fine. Also, you could drive slower, but then your car is going to struggle because you're in too high of a gear, right? So it's just important to respect whatever gear you live in, um, and and drive the speed that comes with the gear. Let's say
Mm-hmm.
you could switch gears, you could go in a higher or lower gear, but that's gonna require more work, right? In the car, you have to put in the clutch and then shift the stick and go into a different gear. Like, it's a whole different phase. Um, how could you compare shifting gears to real life? Could you? How do you switch? Let's say I want to go to a higher gear. What do I do? Or a lower gear could be as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think when you would have to go for a lower gear is maybe also, again, the way that you talk to yourself and the words that you're using.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you have always been working 40 hours a week, 50 hours a week. You've always going 100 kilometers an hour, and suddenly you get fired and you don't have any work at all. So your speed is going down. But if you are still saying to yourself, I have to be working this many hours, I have to put in this effort, I have to do this, I have to do this, and if I don't do that, I'm a failure, because that's the way I know how to live life. You have to be understanding, okay, I don't have a job right now, I'm going to go back to fourth gear. It's okay, because I will find another job, third gear. I will pick my life up again, second gear. It's okay for me to stand still, first gear. Knowing the different situations you might be in your life and accepting the situation that you are in, instead of trying to force yourself out there again and trying to force yourself to do something.
Yeah, that's true. I think we should slightly go to a conclusion, kind of wrap up the episode. Let's recap. I think it mainly had to do with like it feels like everything is what I mean. We talked, everything was car related, but in reality we've discussed quite a few different metaphors, right? I feel like most of them click pretty well, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
There's still some topics we could potentially touch on, like how messy is your car, and do other people leave mess in your car, you know. We thought of a few different things, but it feels like a nice moment to wrap up. To me, what I think is most important is what I get from this episode is your car. You need your car for everything. You need to take good care of your car. If your car works well, you're able to drive any speed you want in any gear you want. If you're going to drive the wrong speed in the wrong gear, you're going to damage your car again. But it feels like the base is taking good care of your car, right?
I think for me, it is like, let's say you go to the gym. After the first day, you don't see results. After the first week, you don't see results. After the first months, you still maybe don't even see results. And then your motivation is going down. Let's say you have 1,000 things to fix in your car before you're able to drive again. But you can count them. Today I fixed one thing, 999 to go.
Yeah.
Tomorrow I'm going to fix 10 things. Okay, it's going to be a long journey. But I know every time that I put in effort and every time that I actually change something in my car and improve it, eventually I would be able to drive my car again. It's the same with, let's say, going to the gym. I don't see results. And also with changing the car or fixing it, the first 999, you don't see any results because you're still unable to drive the car.
Yeah.
But you can physically see something that you've changed. You can see something that you've changed in the car.
Mm-hmm.
And then going to the gym, you are putting in the effort, so eventually the results will come.
Yeah.
But it's not as easy to see or not as easy to count.
No, because you just you need to keep, and it's the same with if you're in a depression, it's kind of the same where you have 1,000 parts to fix in your car, and you fix one, and you're not going to feel better. You still have 999 problems. And then, man, I wanted to make the reference so bad. If you have, okay, yeah, little intermezzo. So then you fix 10 more, like you're saying, and you just, it's hard because the only thing you can do is keep your head down and keep fixing the problems. And here we come to maybe one of my favorite quotes is trust the process. That's what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Keep on working on your car, keep on doing the maintenance on your car. The maintenance will always have to be there. So even if you're fixing the car, do the maintenance. But when you're really fixing your car, keep on working, because you might not notice the difference, but you are making a difference.
Yeah.
Even if you can't notice it. So trust the process, keep working on your car. And yeah.
So the message of today would be trust the process.
I think the message of every episode is going to be trust the process, but we'll see. Okay, well, thank you very much for tuning in today in our first episode. Really take some time to reflect on this, take some time to maybe think about it, see if anything applies to your life, see if any ideas clicked with you in your head. This is the first episode. We're definitely going to make more. We're not quite sure on what, how often we're going to release anything. We're still figuring out a lot of things. But for now, thank you very much for tuning in. And we will see you next episode.
We will see you next time.